Well, more on identity politics. Now, 7 years ago, when a British politician, Joe Cox, was killed by a white neo-Nazi, every single newspaper in Britain, bar two, ran that story on the front page. Or they had a blurb, big blurb, with Joe Cox's picture on it. Or they had a picture story of that her white killer. But last week, what a change. This time, it wasn't a white guy, it was here we had another politician, a British politician, stabbed to death, but not by a white neo-Nazi. No, this guy was in fact an Islamic State supporter, parent Somalian. This time, not a single front page had a story about it, bar one. And then just one brief paragraph. Joining me is Brendan O'Neill from the online magazine Spiked. He's the political editor there. Brendan, you've written about this excellent column. Why the difference, do you think?
It's just extraordinary how extensive the difference is. I mean, just to give you a taste of what it's like, when Joe Cox was killed by a far-right terrorist, as you say, virtually every newspaper put it on the front page when that guy was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison. And The Guardian criticised the Daily Mail for refusing to put it on the front page and instead putting it on page 30. And now we fast forward 5 or 6 years to the killing of David Ames. His killer, Ali Harbi Ali, has been found guilty and given a life sentence, and hardly any paper put it on the front page, including The Guardian, which buried it inside. So the double standard is extraordinary. I think it's because we have a serious problem of Islamist denialism in this country. We can't face up to how serious the threat of Islamic terrorism has become. And the media is far more comfortable talking about white or far-right extremism because it allows them to air certain prejudices. So there's a real moral cowardice in this distinction.
I think that's absolutely correct. Brendan, Prince Harry and his bride, Meghan Markle, they said they were not going to come back to Britain because they weren't getting taxpayer-funded security. They're actually suing over that. It was too unsafe. And yet they went to Holland for the Invictus Games. Turns out it's not too unsafe after all. They've gone and had an audience with the Queen, but not before she said, well, you first got to meet your father before you come and see me, reportedly. Now, I'm just surprised that after the way that he's, dissed them in public and imply that one of them was, or said one of them was basically racist, and is writing another book about them, another book about the royal family, that they even saw him. Why would they have bothered?
Well, that's a good question. I think it shows that the Queen, when it comes to decorum and knowing how to conduct yourself in public and private, the Queen, of course, runs rings around these people. And I think one of the reasons the Queen would have met them is precisely because she doesn't want more of that kind of ridiculous scandal that these two are always whipping up. So I think she was being incredibly professional, actually, in the way that she agreed to see them and have a private audience. But you're right, they talk about Britain being unsafe and a racist hellhole with the racist media and racist members of the royal family, and yet they're happy to come here on their way to the Invictus Games. The things they've said about the UK are simply not true. This is not a racist country. The media here is not racist. They're always playing the smallest violin in the world for themselves. And people in this country are sick of their self-pitying narcissism, and it has nothing whatsoever to do with anyone's race.
Brendan, I'm sorry we ran out of time. It's my fault. I hope to have you back for a longer stint next week. Thank you so much indeed for your time. I have to say, the Queen should have forced the two of them, Harry and Meghan, to sign non-disclosure agreements before she opened her mouth. How can you ever talk to people who put it in a book?